taking us into war. You're making us into criminals. Criminals! Because we got to fight. You're going to stand your police off? No! No! Not here to listen to any bullshit. My kaumata made me, not me! Not me! Bullshit!
A fierce challenge from one kaumātua at the protest, targeting his frustrations at the Treaty Negotiations Minister Andrew Little. The hikoi was organised to support Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei, which has a case before the Supreme Court on an overlapping treaty claim. The hapu, which has already settled its claim, is angry the Crown is now offering other iwi properties that it believes are in its tribal boundaries. Its Deputy Chairman, Ngāti Mublē, says they're joined in court by Ngāti Kuri, Ngāti Rangi, Waikato Tainui and Ngāti Manuhiri.
Basically every tribe on the border of Parehauraki is supporting us and this case because they're experiencing similar issues of overreach by the Hauraki tribes, but across New Zealand also the cross-claims issues have been rushed over the last 10 years and we want this sorted out so our kids don't have to deal with the hangover of these rush processes where relationships are frayed because of this process.
The former government sped up the treaty settlement process, aiming for all claims to be settled by 2020. Ngāti Mublē says if the cross claims can't be resolved, there's a risk of the frustration spilling over into a controversy like the foreshore and seabed, which dogged Labour the last time it was in power.
We see you, like my whanaunga tāmati said, we see you, we hear you, and we stand pokohiwi ki te pokohiwi.
The Labour list MP Kitty Allen welcomed the protesters, including many from her own iwi. She was moved to tears.
Our three tribes from Tauranga Moana had extensive, vast amounts of land confiscated, and we carry that with us. So and when you stand here as a Member of Parliament to receive your own, who are bringing that challenge to the Crown to remember tikanga and to remember the mana of the whenua. It's a challenging position, but one actually that I was proud of our people for taking a stand today, and I was proud of my government for responding in the way in which it did.
Nationals leader Simon Bridges, who's also the MP for Tauranga, says he's listened to the kōrero from all of those involved in the Tauranga Moana dispute.
You're definitely seeing a high-handed approach from ministers on a range of issues. And here, it's another example. Albeit it's good that Andrew Little went out, and I hope he will be listening to the concerns and trying to find a sensible, collaborative way through.
Andrew Little says often Pākehā don't understand how deeply felt the issues of whenua and mana whenua are, and that was what was behind the passion shown at Parliament yesterday.
I'm sensitive to that. I'm surrounded by a Māori caucus that keeps me advised of that. We are all of one mind, is that we want an agreement reached between iwi. It's the only way we're going to fix this on an enduring basis, an agreement between iwi. Every effort is being made to head down that direction.
Andrew Little says the Māori Development Minister Nanaia Mahuta, who is also the MP for Hauraki Waikato, has called a meeting to listen to all sides to make sure a tikanga-based process can be set up in good faith. Atu I te whare pārimata mō te hōtaka o te ata nei, ko Chris Bramalaho.
Well, listening to that was the Minister for Treaty Negotiations, Andrew Little, who joins us now. Good morning, Minister.
Tēnā koe.
How are you going to find a way through this?
Well, you heard in the package just now, my colleague Nanaia Mahuta yesterday on the forecourt of Parliament called for a hui to be hosted by Ngāti Haua and her electorate, the bottom of the King Country there. I think what's important also is to recognise that there is obviously a longer history to the particular issue of Tauranga Moana and its issues with Hauraki, and it goes back to 2004, the fact that there was a Waitangi Tribunal hearing in which all the Tauranga iwi were represented. That tribunal made findings about Hauraki iwi having interests in the Tauranga Moana area, pardon me, particularly the north and the area around Katikati. There were agreements reached around 2012 and 2013 between the Crown and Hauraki and Tauranga iwi that provided for redress, and then later Tauranga iwi withdrew their agreements from that were reached back in 2012, 2013. So now it's been a question about trying to get a way to resolve those outstanding issues. The Crown has always backed a tikanga process, but in the end, tikanga processes work or only happen when iwi are talking with each other. The Crown does not get involved or engaged in tikanga processes, and there's just been a standoff for so long.
This, though, has been sparked, really, hasn't it, by this court process between Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei and the Marutuahu Rōpū, the grouping of tribes.
No, that's not correct. What sparked yesterday's hikoi was I gave notice to the Tauranga iwi that it was my intention to sign a deed of settlement between the Crown and Hauraki that provided for some redress within the Tauranga Moana rohe. And the parts of some iwi within the Tauranga Moana collective were opposed to that and have made that pretty clear to me. But this was a way of breaking the logjam. The issue between Ngāti Whātua and the Crown over the Marutuahu issues has been running on a separate track for some time, but it reached the Supreme Court this week.
Yes, but that is one of the illustrations of the overlapping claims, isn't it? I mean, the contention from Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei is that the Crown is giving some prime sites to try and settle another grievance, this one from Marutuahu and those collective of iwi.
Yep.
So this is the issue here, isn't it? That you have these overlapping claims, and it's going to cause some real tension.
Yeah, I think the essence of the Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei claim is that they have exclusive rights over their rohe, over their area of interest. That has been agreed, and the Crown says there's no exclusive set of interests, and if an iwi or a collective of iwi, as Marutuahu is, 5 iwi, they establish they have some interests or rights in an area, then the Crown ought to be able to, with agreement, provide some redress in relation to that. And that is what is happening. Ngāti Whātua are opposed to that, have been for some time. They've been litigating this for a while, and now it's reached the top court. So that has been going on. I'm not familiar with what, if any, tikanga processes might have been attempted between Ngāti Whātua and Marutuahu. I know that one of the iwi within Marutuahu has reached agreements with Ngāti Whātua, but with Hauraki and Tauranga Moana, there's just been a standoff for a while.
Are you going to go ahead, though, and sign this deed with Marutuahu, regardless of what the Supreme Court says?
With Marutuahu, no, we have. I have given indication that it is my intention to sign with Marutuahu. I have asked for any information from any of the iwi that I need to take into account.
This is important, though, because
either confirms or dissuades me from doing so. But the deadline for that is a week or so away.
Yeah, but this is in this court right now, though, isn't it?
Yep.
So, are you going to sign regardless of what the Supreme Court says?
I think the signing of the deed is not the end of the process, and I think there's a little bit of mythology that once you sign the deed, then that's it, it's all cast in stone. Actually, that isn't the case, and things change. The end of the process is the third reading of the bill that confirms the settlement in Parliament. There is a lot that happens between the signing of the deed and then the preparation of legislation, going through the House, submissions to the Select Committee, and then finally going back to Parliament for its final readings. The signing of the deed is not the final act, and in many cases is not the final kind of terms of settlement, if you like, because things can change through ongoing dialogue, submissions to the Select Committee and what have you.
We're going to have Ngārimu Blair on from Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei later on. He's been pretty critical of you in this process, and I just want finally you to respond to that. He's saying that it's incredible that you would just bowl ahead and sign this regardless of what the Supreme Court says. What is your response to that criticism?
Yeah, he's been more dramatic than that. I think he said it's the worst state of Crown-Māori relations in history, sort of thing. Look, we can get all dramatic about it. This has been an ongoing dispute for some time. The whole issue about overlapping claims. Back in the days leading up to the Waitangi Day this year, I was promised by a number of iwi an alternative proposal about dealing with overlapping claims. I was told it would be ready within a couple of weeks. I'm still waiting for that. The Crown, it's got obligations to all iwi, and the overlapping claims issue. It can't just kind of pick sides. It's got to deal with all the interests that it's dealing with. In the end, disagreements between iwi are best resolved between iwi through tikanga processes. The Crown can't hold a big stick over everybody and say, now just get on and talk and reach agreement. It's got to come from those iwi, and they've got to make those efforts themselves. What I can do as Minister, what the Crown can do, is try to create the conditions where that is more likely than not, but we haven't got there. We might be getting there with Tauranga Moana and Hauraki, and look, there is dialogue going on. I'll have an announcement at the end of the day today about some progress in that regard, which is separate from the meeting to be hosted by Ngāti Hauwa. But I haven't seen a tikanga process attempted between all of Marutūāhu Collective and Ngāti Whātua, but that is a matter ultimately for them.
Okay. Thank you for your time this morning. Do appreciate it. Complex issue. Andrew Little, the Minister for Treaty Negotiations, 7:21.
The bodies of Palestinians killed.